In 1890, in Northern California, Humboldt County, two men are standing on narrow wooden planks hammered into the side of a tree trunk, 3 meters above the forest floor, with nothing beneath them but air. The tree they are cutting is wider than some houses. It has been alive for over 1,000 years, and they have been sawing through it back and forth for 3 days straight. The saw is nearly 4 meters long. Each pull drags through wood so dense it feels like wet stone. The smell of fresh redwood sap fills the forest. Somewhere above them, 60 meters up, the crown of the tree is beginning to crack. They know what that sound means. The coast redwood, Sequoia sempervirens, is not merely a large tree. It is a different category of living thing entirely. Before commercial logging began in the 1850s, these forests covered roughly 2 million acres along the California coast, a corridor of ancient giants stretching from south of Big Sur to the Oregon border. Individual trees exceeded 90 meters in height. Their trunks could measure 8 meters across at the base. Some had been alive since before the fall of Rome. When the gold rush brought hundreds of thousands of people into California in 1849, all of them needed wood for houses, mines, railroads, and the fast-growing cities of the coast. Redwood answered every need. It resisted rot, insects, fire, and warping. By 1853, 9 sawmills were already running in Eureka alone. The forest was vast. The hunger for lumber was still vaster. The men who answered that hunger came from far away. Scandinavians, Irishmen, German immigrants, and New Englanders arrived in Humboldt County having heard there was dangerous work that paid. The logging camps were rough places. Workers logged 12-hour days, 6 days a week. A California labor inspector who visited in 1913 described what he saw plainly. Empty coat sleeves and pant legs, fingerless hands and sightless eyes were a common sight in the woods. These men were not naive about the risk. They had simply calculated that it was worth taking. The camps provided housing, meals 3 times a day, and wages that, for an unskilled immigrant with few other options, were hard to refuse. They learned the work by watching older men. They learned which sounds to listen for. They learned, above all, to read the tree, because the tree would tell you what it was about to do, if you knew how to listen. Felling a giant redwood was not a single act. It was a multi-day operation that demanded precision at every stage. The first problem was the base. Redwood trunks swell dramatically near the ground. The wood there is dense and irregular, so loggers began high. Using axes, they chopped shallow notches into the trunk several meters above the forest floor. Into these notches they hammered wooden boards, springboards, and it was on these narrow platforms, no wider than a boot, that all the work was done. From the springboards, loggers first cut the undercut, a wedge-shaped notch on the side facing the intended direction of fall. A tool called a gun stick measured the precise angle. Get it wrong and the tree would fall unpredictably, and in a forest of giants, wrong was not an option. Then came the back cut. The cross-cut saw, loggers called it the misery whip, was up to 4 meters long with a handle at each end. It required 2 men in total coordination. Pull too hard and the blade would bind in the wet wood. Lose the rhythm and the vibration travelled up the blade into your hands and arms. Felling a large tree could take the better part of a week. As the cut deepened, the sounds changed. A low, slow groaning as wood fibres separated, then sharp cracks, like rifle shots. The men would pull the saw free and step back. The fall of a large redwood sent a shockwave through the ground that could be felt hundreds of meters away. Many trees shattered on impact, destroying in a second what weeks of labor had prepared. The greatest danger was not the fall itself. It was what happened before it. Loggers called them widowmakers, dead branches shaken loose from high in the canopy by the vibrations of sawing. They fell silently from 60 or 70 meters and gave almost no warning. But there was something worse. The barber chair. Under certain conditions, as the back cut weakened the trunk, the wood would not break cleanly. Instead, it would split vertically, a fracture racing up the trunk without warning. The base of the tree would then kick backward off the stump with tremendous force, directly toward the men on the springboards. It was fast, it was silent, and it killed. Industry estimates from 1917 suggested roughly 1 in every 150 loggers in the American West died on the job. In remote Humboldt County, far from the nearest hospital, even survivable injuries often were not survived. The men who lasted had learned to feel the forest. They read the wind. They felt vibrations through their boots. They heard a particular groan in a trunk that was about to move. That knowledge lived in the body. What the loggers built was a civilization. Redwood timber rebuilt San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake. It lined the mine shafts, framed the houses, supported the railroads of a rapidly expanding nation. California's leading botanist Willis Jepson wrote in 1923 that old-growth redwood had outranked all other natural resources in the building of California, more than gold. But the forests paid the price. At the peak of industrial cutting, over 1 billion board feet of redwood were being harvested annually. What had taken 2 million acres and 2,000 years to grow was consumed within a single human lifetime. The men doing the cutting were skilled, careful, and brave. The scale of the loss was not any one logger's doing. It was the logic of an economy that treated the forest as a resource with no bottom. Today, only 5% of the original old-growth coast redwood forest remains. What survived did so largely because it was too remote or too steep to reach in time. The stumps are still out there, massive and moss-covered, wide enough to park a car on. Look closely and you can still see the notches, the springboard cuts, the marks left by men whose names nobody recorded, in forests far from any town, doing work the country needed and then forgot. The wood they cut is still holding weight, in houses more than a century old, in barns, in the bones of cities. They did not ask to be remembered. But the wood they touched is still standing. The redwood loggers left almost nothing behind. No memoirs, no monuments, no maintained graves. What remains is the work itself, and the trees that outlasted them.